There was absolutely nothing I could do. One minute, I was standing, with my feet firmly planted on the ground, my arms folded across my chest, flatly refusing to do what he said. And the next, I was upside down, slung effortlessly over his shoulder, beating my fists against his back. He laughed at me as I tried to wriggle free. "You're so little," he teased. "I am not little," I protested, kicking. "I'm just smaller than you." I wasn't little. I was 5'4". I told him over and over again that that was an average height. But every time I said it, he would walk up next to me until my nose was against his chest and he was towering over me. "Do you feel average now?" he would ask.
One night, I went to Old Town to spend the evening with some friends. There was supposed to be a full moon that night, but the clouds blotted it out. I didn't notice its absence until I turned off the main street and onto the dark, narrow back road that led to the parking garage. The bright merriment from the restaurants, shops, and bars faded away behind me, and the blackness of the night brushed up against my face like a cobweb. My footsteps thudded against the concrete, echoing off the abandoned, graffiti-covered buildings that lined the street. The sound jumped around in the alley, lonely and out of place in the silence. My father's words from earlier that evening rested heavily on my shoulders. "Get a friend to walk you to your car tonight," he said. "That garage is too far from the main street, and I don't want you there alone." But it was only a couple of blocks, and I had my cell phone in my purse. I drove his advice from my mind, and instead focused on counting my footsteps. Thud, 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 thud. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Careful not to make eye contact. Careful not to walk too closely to others on the street. Careful not to keep walking past the spot where the cat calls and the slurping noises and the howls come from. Careful not to make eye contact. Careful not to walk too closely to others on the street. Careful not to keep walking past the spot where the cat calls and the slurping noises and the howls come from. Careful not to make eye contact. Careful not to walk too closely to others on the street. Careful not to keep walking past the spot where the cat calls and the slurping noises and the howls come from. Careful, safe. Careful, safe. Careful, safe. I could feel his hand, warm and sweaty, on my back. Careful. I could feel his hand, safe, warm and sweaty. Careful. On my back. I could feel his hand. Warm and sweaty. Careful. Safe. Safe. His hand on my back. Safe. Careful. Safe. Careful. Safe. Warm and safe. Careful. 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 Safe. Careful.
The passenger window of the car was open. Through it, I could see a pair of dull eyes fixed on me. The moonlight rested on the man's face so that I could see the unkempt beginning of a beard, the sharp nose and cheekbones, the shadows underneath the somber eyes. His stillness struck me as almost inhuman. There was no rise, no fall of his chest, no tightening of the muscles in his face, no slight shift of his weight. There was only the deliberate movement of his eyes, following me as I approached the car. 36, 37, 38.
I could feel his eyes on my left cheek, my hair, my body. My breathing grew shallow. Some very small part of my brain told me to reach into my purse for my cell phone. But I was frozen under his intense gaze. I had never felt so violated. The left side of my body tingled and went numb, as if he had hit me. 42, 43, 44.
Two long strides that put him in the corner of my peripheral
raced, and my mind fought to keep up. Oh God, please, God, not me, not tonight. Oh God. My jaw tightened as my thoughts spun out of control, fabricating explanation after ridiculous explanation. He's walking home. He's a rapist. He needs directions. He's a serial killer. He's concerned for your safety. He's a threat to your safety. Oh God, please, God. My feet kept up their absurd rhythm, and he kept marching along beside me. I tried my best to fix my eyes straight ahead, but his broad figure clouded my peripheral vision. Do you feel average now?
I felt his hand on the small of my back, warm and sweaty, even through my shirt. Cold, liquid panic shot from his fingers up my spine, turning my lungs to tar and freezing my tongue. I am not little. I am not little. I am not little.
This kind of stuff happens a lot. Every day. People meet people. People make connections. He sees something. She notices something. There's a spark. And then there's the sweaty palms. And the butterflies in the stomach. And the rapid heartbeat every time you see them. It just happens. For me, we met at school. We had statistics class together. And I remember looking across the classroom for the first time and thinking he was attractive. And then there was the first time we talked. Oh, I remember it so clearly. I was running late to class and I had my backpack slung over one shoulder. I was trying to review the work for class and text my friend about lunch and grab a drink of water, and all of a sudden, he was there. And as he approached me, I saw a smile creep onto his face. And as soon as he was close enough, he said, hi. Oh, he said hi to me. I didn't know how to respond. I mean, my brain turned to mush. I was just so excited, and by the time I realized I needed to say something back, he was already behind me. And I quickly said, hi, before it was too late. And then there was the day we were paired together in class to work on a project. And before we could even sit down and begin work, he looked at me and he said, would you want to go on a date with me? And I mean, then we just started hanging out all the time. We didn't do so well in that particular presentation and project, but it didn't matter. We connected. Then there would be these times when I would be humming a song, and 2 hours later I'd walk into his room and he'd be playing the same one. Or he just always knew how to ask the questions that would get out what's on my mind. And it just happened. And then school came to an end. And we were going to make it work. We were going to stay together. And so we had to get jobs in the same place. Everything seemed to work out. But then things are always different than you expect them to be. And so we were both a lot more stressed out than we were expecting. And more exhausted when we were with each other. And then we weren't as young and excited anymore. And on top of that, there were the little things too, the groceries, the laundry, the bills. We fell into roles. And then there were expectations. His expectations for me, his expectations for us. And I know people deal with change differently. I know it's going to put different kinds of pressure on a relationship. But it got to the point where I couldn't remember why we were doing this. I couldn't remember the boy I'd fallen in love with from across
thoughts the faster.
And then one day, this kind of stuff happens a lot. Every day, people meet people. People make connections. He sees something, she notices something. And there's a spark. And then there's the sweaty palms. And the butterflies in your stomach. And the rapid heartbeat every time you see them. It just happens.
His hand fell away. I looked to the end of the alley and felt my knees grow weak with relief. Walking towards us were two young men, smiling, talking. My whole body seemed to deflate at the sight of them, the sudden release of tension causing my shoulders to curl forward, my chest to sink towards my stomach. Neither of them was looking at us, but the man must have found them to be a threat. He got back in his car and closed the passenger door. The two men didn't even look at me as I flew by them. When I got back to my car, I sat in the driver's seat for 20 minutes with the doors locked and the lights on and hot, angry tears burning my face. Why didn't I do anything? Why didn't I run or scream or fight? How had I let him scare me into submission with those horrible, dull eyes? I can take care of myself, thank you very much. But I didn't. I didn't take care of myself. I just trembled in silence, crippled by the knowledge that he was bigger and stronger than me.
years ago in Old Town, there was a 16-year-old girl who was raped and killed by a man pretending to be an undercover cop. He pulled her over, asked her to get out of the car, and carried her to one of the many narrow alleys beside the main street. They found her body the next morning. 7 years ago, at a gas station, a man approached a young woman and grabbed her wrists, pinning them behind her back with one hand. He used his other to cover her mouth as he dragged her to a ditch beside the road, where he took off her clothes and beat her and raped her. He ran away and left her there, naked, for the gas station clerk to find a couple of hours later. I asked one of my guy friends if he had heard any of these stories. He had not. I hear them all the time. I hear them from my parents before I go out at night. I hear them in the self-defense classes that my father makes me take. I hear them in driver's education from the instructor after he tells me how to adjust the mirrors. I hear them whispering, echoing and distorted, constant reminders of how little I am. So, what is the moral of the story? Don't get gas from a deserted station. Never get out of your car for an undercover cop. Don't walk through an alley by yourself when it's dark out. Don't make eye contact with a stranger. Don't walk too close, as that may be taken as an invitation. Don't move too far away, as that might risk offending him. Slump your shoulders slightly so maybe your breasts aren't as prominent. Maybe I should have worn something else. Or maybe I should just never go out.